A lot of people get hurt by the ideology of perfection. So I think one of the reasons, long before I had D-Rock or a team, I was able to, by myself, while running businesses, be active on every platform, is because I didn't ideologically think about every single piece of content. I think when you're trying to make every piece perfect for yourself, perfection is usually just another word for insecurity. You know, everyone's overthinking it. And so one, it's to feel comfortable with that. Number two is to be okay with not being on 6 platforms. You know, I think sometimes we feel too much pressure to be everywhere. I talk about it, I'm like, be everywhere, post a lot. A lot of people can't manage that, and that's okay. I believe it has to do with insecurity of success of the piece of content. The biggest reason people didn't go to TikTok when they were winning on Instagram was they didn't have the humility and the self-confidence to not be successful on TikTok immediately. So I think the biggest reason people don't produce is more of a mental game than, it's not hard to produce content for 6 platforms. It's really not. You can do it. It's that people fear lack of success in numbers from a vanity standpoint, which stop them from actually doing it. So I think humility is one of the true superpowers of a scaled influencer or content creator. Being okay with starting at 0 or being okay if the content's not doing great.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more. And you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Gary Vaynerchuk, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, develop good work ethic.
Talent without work ethic was a wasted opportunity. You understand?
Yeah.
It's a wasted opportunity.
Yeah.
I just think about that all the time. How many people had loads of talent that either didn't fight to find it? I'm always curious about that. Like, who was the greatest painter of all time? But he never decided to paint.
Gave up. Yeah.
Not even gave up.
Just
didn't even go.
Never mind.
Novak Djokovic. When I was chopping with him, had there not been a tennis court behind his family's
never went out.
restaurant, he would have never gone there.
Crazy.
And instead he would have been into skiing. He's the greatest, he's gonna be, when it's all said and done, the greatest male tennis player of all time. The serendipity of a tennis court. Like, I think about that. This is why I push curiosity so heavy. Like, try, just try some. If you said no, I don't sing, and just stayed home and played video games or whatever,
You don't know what would have happened.
I know what would have happened. All the good shit that's happened the last 2 years wouldn't have happened. That's what, I know that part wouldn't have happened.
That's true.
Rule number 3, be kind to people.
The biggest vulnerability in this room is not being smart enough or being hungry enough. It's just actually not knowing how to dominate when it comes to people relationships. You know, I think most people that would be in a room like this, if you're here, you're doing shit. Let there be no confusion. If you're here, you're doing shit, right? You know, especially for somebody, if you're 24 hours into feeling like, oh, Carl's really crushing it or Susan's doing it. If you feel any level of like that, you're completely confused, because if you're here, you're doing it, right? The question is, how big is doing it? And what do you actually want? And I think the thing that I would really try to land first before I go into other subject matters is, you'd be stunned how much your personal upside is being capped if you aren't profoundly kind to the people that work for you. It is a very grandma statement. It's a very kind of like foofy kind of like, the world is kind, but it is profoundly impactful. And so I would bet the farm that many dozens of people in here are dicks to their team. I would bet the farm on it. It is just the way the business world is. It's the way society is. And I beg for the people in here as I'm going on this subject matter, if it gives you any thoughts or feelings, if you want it for you, I promise you that what's happening underneath you and how you're setting the tone and what you're doing is a huge impact on your zeros. This is not about entitlement and letting people get lazy and like silly non-results things. This is about building empires. This is about building big empires, but you would be stunned, I believe. And the reason this is an important subject matter is I'm sure at this point, plenty of people have heard about the Great Resignation, right? Because of COVID. The thing that I'm way more worried about as all of you go on your journey to build the things that you want to build is the great never applying in the first place. The amount of options 17, 19, 22-year-olds have going into the world and they're aware of it, of how easy, that will be the word I use, it is to make $60,000 a year flipping on eBay, making content on TikTok, dabbling in NFT land. There are so many more options than what we grew up with if you're over 35 here, that it's profound and people are missing what's actually happening. And this is an absolute subject matter that I hope you take very seriously. If you are not focused on retention, people actually wanting to stay, if you are not focused on retention first, you will lose. And when I say lose, you'll still win, but you'll lose upside that you can't even see.
Rule number 4, aim for simplicity.
I believe it's simplicity. I really do. I think for the people that know me in my life, I'm really simple. You know, I really enjoy my career. I love this. Like you couldn't even imagine how humbled I am by people's interest in what I talk about. But I think the key to happiness is being content while being ambitious. And I think being content comes from gratitude. I'm so grateful for what I have, and I've always been that way, that all this special stuff that has been happening doesn't mean enough to me. This is not where my self-worth comes in. The Gary Vee crap and the claps and the follower, like it's incredible, but it's not what I aspire to. It's not how I see my value. And I think the only way to be happy is to have a quiet mind. And I think a quiet mind comes from a balance of very deep humility and true perspective of understanding that you just genuinely understand that you don't mean in the scheme of things, but you aspire in your behavior to mean something. And I think it's a very interesting balance, and I think it works incredibly well. I just wish people are just impossibly addicted to outside affirmation, to acceptance. And I wish people lived in their own cocoon and just did the things that made them happy. So many people would aspire to make so much less money if they didn't care about what other people think, and would be dramatically happier. And I wish that on society.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, be accountable.
And this is clear for me because I got gray hairs, boys, now. Like I've been living it now. I'm 46 now. Now I felt this at 16, but I know it at 46. Number 1, accountability. This is gonna set you free, whether it's true or not in every situation. If you always know that it's always your fault, it sounds crazy, but that will keep you crazy happy. The amount of athletes I've met that blame coaches, even at the professional level, blows my mind. There are dudes in this room who always are talking shit, blaming coach. Right now. I see some of these good looking faces. I know behind that face, I'm like, that kid right there. You know, like it's real. Do not blame anybody but yourself. It will make you happy. It's a huge mindset. Number 2, I am blown away by people's entitlement. Just because your mom and dad had sex at the right exact second to give you athletic ability doesn't mean nobody owes you shit. So accountability, first accountability, second, eliminating entitlement. Nothing is owed to any of y'all. It is what it is. It's like sports. It's a game. So just because somebody gave you a scholarship or gave you an at-bat, it's you. You're not owed anything. Coach, if you've got real accountability, like this is on me, and you don't think anybody else owes you shit, the last one is in a different school, but all together, those three change people's lives. The third one is simple, which is be nice. This is a crazy one, especially at this age. If you realized how life actually plays out, and you will one day when you're 60, 70, 80, the number one hack, the smartest move, be kind, which is why, Coach, earlier I said be nice to yourself, because nobody's nice to anybody else if they don't like themselves. The only people in here that are mean, trying to tear down others, because they're hurting. When people are tearing down other people, that just exposes that they're hurt. But if you're lucky enough to feeling good, give roses to people, because people are gonna be the fuel that gets you there.
Rule number 6, just try.
There is no such thing as work-life balance. Every family is different. There is no such thing called balance. You're the judge and the jury, just like a medium-sized business or a small business. We do these things to make ourselves upset. We have to stop. How do you balance it? By trying. You try. You try to go to the recital. You try to go to the parent-teacher conference. You try to run your business. You try.
And if you try your hardest and can't do it, you should not judge yourself.
What is can't?
Yeah.
What's can't do it? What does that even mean? You missed a baseball game? Come on. The kids can have you miss a baseball game. It's true. It's true. Every single person here has 9,700 things they can think of that their parents f***ed up and they still love them. And oh, by the way, forgot 8 trillion things their parents did that were f***ed up. We are in some crazy dynamic of like overanalyzing everything so much with a layer of cynicism that is making everybody go crazy. If you are a good person and you're trying, truly trying, and not trying to hurt anybody, you're phenomenal. Enough.
How do we eliminate that outside noise? Sometimes, you walk.
By not caring about other people's opinions once and for all. High school is over. Stop playing in it. It's over. You left. You're not in high school. You are, I know, but everybody else, stop. It's over. What? Who? Your mom? Tell your mom to go f herself. She f***ed up too. What? Your spouse? Like, what? Who? What? Just living for other people's judgment. Everybody else sucks too.
Now, if you're gonna tell your mom that, how do you have the courage to have that kind of conversation with her?
Because you don't say it the way I'm saying it, you say it a different way. You say, Mom, I appreciate your opinion of how I'm being a father. How about the time you did this? That shuts them up real fast.
I love it, I love it.
Like, I just don't understand how people are so deeply into this affirmation culture, keeping up with the Joneses. It's just really a problem, and it's getting worse by the second. And news alert, it's not social media's fault, it's your fault. This lack of accountability is disgusting. We have to go deeper, and we have to be more optimistic and positive. We have to become more optimistic and positive. You know why? You get to decide life. Just so you know, news alert, you're deciding what life actually is. It is your subjective call. And if you're like, well, Gary, you, I grew up in a family that was very pessimistic and this is what it is, well then, what do you want? Then go to therapy, right? Like, do something. Fight for it. Fight to be happy. Listen to positive That's a funny game. Miraculous thing happens when you cut out your most pessimistic friend, you become more optimistic. And let me tell you about complaining. The only people that are listening to your complaining are people that extremely love you but are enablers, or your other loser friends and you're just complaining to each other.
Rule number 7, stop making excuses.
First and foremost, the number one thing as you think about how you're spending your money to make more money, AKA marketing, you have to take your personal opinions off the table. The number one reason so many people struggle is because they say dumb shit like, Well, I don't like TikTok. Who gives a f, Carl? Do you like money? This is the profoundly, most fundamentally silly thing that I hear every day of my life. Gary, I don't get YouTube, but trillions of people do. I don't like it. You probably don't like a lot of things you do every day. If you're here, my favorite thing about a group here is that you eat a lot of shit every day to make it happen. There's plenty of things you don't like. This is not about what you like or what your opinion is of a platform or you don't like technology. I mean, some people try to go so lofty with me. Gary, I'm not doing it because it's bad for the kids, right? Like, or they go political. It's like looking for any excuse not to put in the work to something they don't understand yet. And so for me, when I look at the landscape of what's happening in the world, the speed in which attention is shifting is profound. Facebook and Google, Twitter and YouTube, TikTok, these things are moving so fast. You know it. You know, TikTok came out of nowhere for most of you in the last 24 months. Elon bought Twitter yesterday. This stuff is just moving. It's moving and it's moving fast. And you have to understand that even more importantly than balancing your checkbook is your ability to understand where your customer's attention is and how to make pictures, videos, the written word, audio, to get in front of them and do business. And for a lot of people that are winning, the quickest way they lose market share is by being outflanked by competitors doing contemporary work when they got cozy because they were winning. This today is about business. You can do it however you want to do it. When I start this conversation with the first 10 minutes around culture and how you treat people, I'm not joking about what I said. I know a lot of people struggle with that here. They don't work hard enough to your standards. They shouldn't. They don't make as much money as you do. Like people email all the time, how do I get my employees to work as hard as me? I'm like, help them start their own business. Seriously. I appreciate that. These are the important conversations. Because when you win this, when you figure out how to build an actual team, you can scale. I can do a lot of things, but you can only do so much. So many of you are carrying way too much stuff because you're not building teams. You're a micromanager, you're insecure, you're not building up retention. You can't create scale. It's only people. It's people. And so that's a huge combo.
Rule number 8, be mentally strong.
Could you imagine living a life where you're actually interested in making somebody else feel bad? The f is that?
Michael, like, please report to room 213. Michael Gonzalez.
They call you the office chief.
You know, I swear to God, I heard that speaker just go on, and Frog, I swear to God, I hated school so much that hairs just went up back of my neck. Like, thank God I don't hear that no more. No, but listen, this is a big one because all of you are gonna get this because I hope you all stay healthy and stay motivated and you get to that place. You guys are all getting close to where you're gonna get a lot of internet love, right? You guys aren't far away from getting that gas. Just remember this, I hope you remember this. Somebody taking time out of their day to leave a comment to try to hurt your feelings, feel bad for those people. Not on some like egotistical shit. Actually be a human being and be compassionate. Understand how much that person's life isn't happy, that they need to go make somebody else unhappy to be on some misery loves company shit.
Rule number 9, stop judging yourself.
My perspective on this is it's no different than kissing a bunch of frogs until you find your prince. No different than dating or friendships. You know, all of us at this point watching this video have gone through friendships and potentially relationships, and the reality is some new kid moves in 4th grade, you think you're gonna be friends, the first couple days are good, and then the 3rd day she or he shows you that they're not a nice person and you walk away, which is fine. No different than interests and passions. You know, the reality is that I went skiing once back, 15 years ago, and it was fine. I kind of liked it. I was surprised I was decent by the 3rd day, but it wasn't a passion of mine, and it's not something I want to allocate instead of going garage sailing. That's okay. You're also extremely young, and the reality is that I wouldn't beat yourself up or overjudge yourself just because you didn't fall in love with cooking or being a yoga teacher or being into concrete manufacturing. The reality is you still haven't found it. That's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. You're getting judged by people who've settled. This is an incredibly important point in our society. Normally, the people that will cast judgment on someone who's still trying to explore are people who themselves settled without exploring and are subconsciously deploying misery loves company. Just to give you context of what just happened, that just sucked the air out of the room with my team behind this camera because it's such a profound point that I've not really made this articulately, and it's very important for all of you. If you continue to be fighting to find your happiness and you find yourself getting judgment from your inner circle, I promise you, many of them just gave up and they are envious, and subconsciously, they're good people. These are your parents, these are your best friends, these are your siblings. They're not intending to be mean, tear you down, stop you, conform you into settling like they did, but that's exactly what they're doing, so that there be no confusion. Your inner circle, society, is incredibly subconsciously interested in you conforming.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is always be patient.
I talk about these thematics a lot, and I will repeat them to my death. The best way to go from a small business to a medium business is by deploying patience and doing what you did to get to become a small business. Of course there's strategies. I've been very consistent about this. For 15 years, I put out a very simple message that has been uncomfortably historically true. If you understand where the customer's attention is and you know how to make pictures, videos, and written words for those platforms, you will grow. For that gentleman's business, if he got great at LinkedIn ads, his top line revenue would grow. The question is, how is he judging himself? By the way, what is even a small or medium business? Like, what are the rules of all this? Is 5 million small? Is 50 million medium? Like, what is this? I'm sure there's some answer to it if you Google it, but everybody's answer is different, right? Like what? Like, it's these constant games of making these things for us. You know what that is? That's the 90-day school grade. The f are you trying to do for tomorrow? What is that? He's gonna make his own subjective call if he's a medium business or a small business. We're playing dumb games out here.
Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. Gary, you speak a lot.
What's a medium-sized business?
Honest to God, I'm with you. Who effing knows?
But really, is it 50? Somebody help, what's a medium-sized business? No, revenue, not people. 5 million bucks, somebody just said. That's a medium-sized business. That's small as to me. That's a bullshit business.
Yeah, perspective.
But this is important to understand. I'm not right. I'm not cool. I'm not special. It just doesn't work for my brain. For somebody else, $1 million's insane. That's insane. Do you know how hard it is to build $1 million business? And oh, by the way, what about the fact that you change over time? What about 23, a $5 million business is a medium-sized business, but then you're 36 and it's not, or it goes down. Like, we play in these semantics that don't mean anything except make us anxious. When me and my dad started having too much friction because I was getting the credit and became the man, and he was,
so when did that happen?
That happened probably 7, 8 years into me running the business.
Okay.
Where it was like Gary, not Sasha.
Right.
And then that, because my dad's an alpha and he has pride, he came to this country with nothing, $100 in his pocket, and built something. But then I took it to such an extreme level that it was friction. And I was like, F this, man, I'm not gonna not have a relationship with my dad. My brother was graduating college. I was like, F it, let's start something new. So the truth is, it wasn't that I woke up and I was like, wine's whack or I want to do something else. It was that like I just wanted to like have a real relationship with my dad, and I was starting to like get really worried.
And so did that start like an addictive process in which you just kept having to like move on to bigger and bigger things?
I don't know if it's that. I think from my standpoint, you know, the answer I gave to you, I eat my own dog food. Like straight up, like I deploy patience. Like I didn't think twice that at 34, I didn't have a whole lot of money. I built my dad's business for him. I was leaving with nothing.
Really? Nothing?
Nothing. I don't own anything from Wine Library. I love when people leave comments like, oh, this guy, his dad gave him $4 million store. I'm like, no. I built my dad's business for him to a totally different level. He gave me life and gave me the opportunity to build his store for him. But at 34 years old, I'm worth zero.
So what do you do from there?
I get some guy to pay us $80,000 to be a VaynerMedia client. I get Mike Boyd to work for free and sleep on the floor. We grinded, and 7 years later, we have a $150 million business, and I just worked. My failures are funny because I'm an immigrant, so I've always got I never do shit that's like gonna put me totally out of business. I always got a nest egg. I'm always on like third and a half bait. Like I'm never doing something that's like over the edge, and if this fucks up, it's like, you know? My biggest mistakes have been the things I haven't done. I referenced it real quick. If you go read my first book in 2008, Crush It, 2008, I thank my family and one random person, Travis Kalkinick, who went on to start Uber, who used to, when me and AJ started VaynerMedia, used to fly around like in Vegas and just hang out with us because he had no job. He was in between. Starts Uber. I'm investing like crazy on everything. He asked me to invest in Uber twice, and I said no. Because I just bought an apartment, I was a little less liquid. I thought it was a side project for him. I also thought Uber was like a rich man's game. Like it was originally like a limo on your phone. So I was like, you know, how big is that gonna be? And I passed twice. We got in a little bit later, you know, so we did all right. But I mean, if I wrote my normal $50,000, $25,000 check, I probably left in the ballpark of 300 to 800 million on the table. So that's an L. And on some real shit, like, I don't even feel it because what I've started to really learn about myself in the last year or so is I'm about the process, not the trophies. I'm just about the process. I love my game. I love my game so much. I want to win. I'd like to have that W, but money's funny, right? Like anybody who doesn't have it thinks it's the key to happiness and they're super confused and then they say, well, easy for you to say you have it. And I was like, yo, I didn't have it for a long ass time. I lived in the villas in Springfield Avenue in Springfield in a apartment until I was 28, buying nothing, making 40, 50,000 a year, working 90 hours a week in a liquor store. So I've tasted both. So I made a lot of mistakes. I pass on all sorts of shit. I just don't know what the mistakes are because I say no so much because I'm so busy. What if that one meeting was with, you know? Make a lot of mistakes. I grew up in an environment where my dad worked every minute to try to make it in the new world, and he eventually owned a liquor store in New Jersey. I was dragged into that when I was 14. And really from day one, I started doing two things that are interesting to me. I started doing a lot of UI, UX, which in the way I would say that was I started moving my dad's store around. I used to stand behind the register, and it wasn't that busy, right? Like, you know, where I could watch almost every customer walk in and where would they go and what would they buy. And intuitive as 14, I would understand like, why do we send them that way where we sell stuff that's not as expensive as over here? Like really in hindsight, you know, a lot of this stuff in the last 5 years I've recalled. Even lemonade, when I was 6 years old, instead of standing behind my own lemonade stands, I got my friends to do it because I would literally walk up and down the streets of New Jersey watching cars drive by to try to figure out what tree or what post to put a sign on. So I've been truly intuitively chasing attention my whole life. As a matter of fact, it's gonna bubble up in a minute. One of the biggest reasons I push against television advertising and think it's grossly overpriced and overrated is not because I don't believe in the craft or a 30-second video, it's that I don't believe people are consuming them. You know, like I think that needs to matter. You could literally make the greatest thing of all time. It's kind of like the tree in the forest. Like, you're gonna spend 9 months making something that nobody sees, seems like a waste of time. If you're sitting here right now and you're real passionate about something that doesn't have to do with the four walls we're in right now, you need to lean into that shit. Because that's the thing the internet's doing. The amount of people that can make a real living around having a podcast or a vlog or flipping shit they love versus getting a job they hate, and they can make as much or around the same much around having a podcast around Fortnite versus going and working in finance because they interned this summer in Wall Street and they think that's where the money is. That shit, I know nobody here believes, but I've been saying it for a decade and I'm watching it every day and it's real. To me, it's something that I'm pushing more clarity around, which is I want you to be happy.
And accountable.
Of course, well, the beauty of entrepreneurship is it's inherently accountability. Otherwise it fails. I do want people to be happy, and I actually think accountability leads to happiness. When you think the government's in charge, the media's in charge, Facebook's in charge, this boss is in charge. When you believe somebody else is in charge of your life, you immediately start the process of unhappiness. Accountability is the framework of happiness. It doesn't mean bad things aren't happening. It's not delusion to the macro injustices of the world. It's called accountability. Do the shit that got you here. This is when all the new characters come into your life and start telling you how to do it different. I'm getting more ridiculous in my truth than ever, the bigger it's getting. Like, if all these people know, I love when people got voices like that are not living it. And they're gonna give you the commodity advice. You know, like, you've gotta start doing yoga. You gotta start eating granola. Like, do the shit that got you here.
Well, the stuff that got me here, roughly speaking, would be like fast food, hard drugs, promiscuous sex at an alarming rate.
Wrong.
Okay, not those things.
No, those things are great. Great. No, wrong. The things that got you here is you were willing to do that in the face of people telling you not to do that. And so maybe you don't need to eat a fat burger anymore and do whatever the you want, but you need to triple down on your intuition and do. That's how you got here. Did everybody think it was a great idea to be a BMX website dude?
No.
Good.
That seemed like a very strange idea to many people at the time. Now.
So, like, listen, my man, honestly, this is the time you have to quadruple down on what got you here. The thesis, not the direct actions.
But you don't see people run themselves into the ground. You've never been concerned about that, at least for yourself?
People run themselves into the ground when they start wavering from what they are and they start doing behaviors that don't come natural to them, and then they break. And the ones that do, don't. Henry Rollins figured that out. He would have run himself in the ground if he wanted to be Mick Jagger. And Mick Jagger would have run himself in the ground if he wanted to be somebody else, a politician. When you do the shit that you don't want to do because you think it's the right thing to do because you graduated to the next spot, you lose. I started the agency with 45 people that didn't work in the industry. I knew nothing about the industry. I read nothing about the industry. So I started VaynerMedia. I built a creative shop that I put media in the name. I had both media and creative under one roof and had no idea that it was unique. So we were doing all these unusual things. What it led to is a very large agency that has not played by the industry rules, but has driven business results for its clients. So now we do have 900 people globally. We do have the US, LA and New York offices and London and opening up Singapore, and very frankly, feel very confident we're about to get a big scope for the World Cup in Qatar, and that means Middle East and looking at, you know, South America. So I think it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. I think because of some of the awards we're winning this week, just I'm feeling from the creative class here a little bit of more of a, okay, you can be in the club, and I'm laughing. I'm like, I don't want to be in the club. I don't mind to be in the club, but there's only one club I want to be in, which is, wouldn't you want to be a creative that in real life, when you hang out with your friends, people know what you're talking about? Like, how many more times do people here want to spend 20 years of their life making TVC that when they talk about it and they're like, you know, the IBM spot, and their friends and relatives are like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And if they do, it's because they tried really hard to find it, right? I think that people want to, I think if you're creative, I think you want it to be seen. I just don't know what else to say. And I think, you know, what Mike and Adam will tell you if you decide to yap with them after this is, after having careers in fancy places doing fancy stuff, it's fun to make. It, you know, think about all the ideas that you guys have had that will never see the day of life. Like, you guys are all 12 years away, 6 years away, 4 years away from being the final decision maker to actually see something made. Right now, you're politicking and strategizing on how to convince the two people above you to actually make the thing you believe in. You're not in the creative industry, you're in the internal politicking industry. That's why volume will set this industry free. We have interns from day one in ad school being able to see their thoughts in market from the biggest brands in the world. Literally, interns, we have literally interns already in our company that have had more pieces of content seen by humans than some of the people here. That's real. That's going to play out, I hope. for all of you. I want you to be in a place where you get to be creative for real instead of working at a bank and fighting for a half-pregnant version of your idea to see the world. And that's why so many of you have to do things on the side, because you can't scratch your itch. What do you have to do to be successful? I think people like us don't understand how, I think in history, people look back at what I figured out as a really important moment, which is, it is remarkable that I don't spend any time being Gary Vee. I figured out my model, which was following me. You're not gonna be able to do that.
Exactly right.
If you take 15 to 20 minutes, and whether we help with that infrastructure, you get an intern, a million different things, but let me tell you how easy it could be. If you text, I'm gonna just use them, Sal, and be like, this week I wanna talk about cryptocurrency. If Sal shows up downstairs at the bar of your building or at the Starbucks, and that 15 minutes is Sal asking you 4 questions, and you answer them, and then that is a LinkedIn post the next day in first person,
Right.
Sal writing it. That is what I've done. I run a 900-person company. I don't have time to do, like, what I'm doing is, I'm filming this right now. This meta moment might be how a busy executive said I want it. How a busy executive needs just 15 minutes to be in the content game.
Got it.
This right here is how I figured it out, right? Originally it was the Ask Gary Vee show where I did have to sit down for an hour and interview Hannah and her 6-year, at VaynerMedia, right? Now, I've gone much further down to Daily V, where I'm just being filmed because I don't even have that hour to do that YouTube show. Then I did that for 3 years, and all of a sudden I'm like, that content's getting stale. And weirdly, in the last month, I'm back to doing a little bit of Ask Gary Vee. I'm fighting for that hour. But the key is, how do you not disrupt yourself? But you need to have something that's a pillar. I think about why was I an F student? Because I promise you, if there was a business school for K through 12, right? Here's my thing, right? If you would have taught me why New Coke failed in 1984 in 5th grade, I would have got an A. Instead, you wanted to teach me how many rings were around Saturn, and I'm getting about that, right? The problem is, most businesses are not playing the marathon. They're playing the sprint, right? They're not worried about lifetime value and retention. They're worried about short-term goals. Social is not going to excite anybody in this room for what it's going to do to your bottom line in a 6-month or 12-month period. It just can't happen. See, social media marketing is like going Beyonce on your customers. You've got to put a ring on it. Meanwhile, 99% of the people in here, and I looked at some Twitter and Facebook accounts of some of the peeps in this room, 90% of you, more, but I'm trying to be nice, are treating social media like a one-night stand. Most companies are failing in social because everybody in social is acting like a 19-year-old dude. They're trying to close on the first transaction. It's a good one, right? At the end of the day, vanity metrics, whether that's followers on Instagram, whether that's the jewelry or car you drive, no matter what it is, at the end of the day, underneath all of that, there needs to be something tangible and real. And if you're not asking for business, and more importantly, if you're not selling something you believe in, you're finished. The single reason I think I'm a great salesman, as somebody who hates to ask for a sale, is because I deeply believe in what I'm selling. Whether it's the wine I produce, whether it's a sneaker collaboration I have with K-Swiss, whether it's Vayner, I sit in this, do you know what it feels like to sit in this room and know that VaynerMedia is the best marketing firm in the world? It's empowering. You sell with conviction. And I just watch way too many people either be deeply insecure about what they're selling because deep down they know they have no idea what the they're selling.
I said they don't know what they're selling.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or they're just broken. They just so care about money. They know exactly what they're selling. They just know they're selling bullshit. And they're preying on people's fears. And I want to kill those fears. I spend all my time listening. The reason I want people to leave comments is I read them. I read all the comments. I read the ones that say that I'm the best. I read the ones that say that I'm the worst. I read the one, and all I do is I listen. It's so funny. I get made fun of when I Ask Gary Vee because I'm always interrupting people. It's because I've gotten so good at listening. I know what the people are gonna say before they say it. I just wanna move on, you know? So one of the ways to get the next clients is to never let the last client fail. The only way not to let a client fail is to over-listen and provide them what they want at all costs, which is why I always push against people selling to the bottom, because the bottom doesn't know what to do with it, and then you're never gonna win. You're just gonna keep regurgitating the bottom. And so that's how I did it. I did it first, and then I listened very carefully to the first 20 clients to make sure there was no chance that there was gonna be any vulnerability, and I built on the word of mouth of our quality deliverables for the client. Everybody's got so much pressure to like have it figured out when they come out of school. Like it's time to be real and real life and all that shit. It's stupid. 22 to 30 should be experimenting. Travel, if you, like, and people are like, well, I don't have money. I'm like, you can still travel. You can get a bullshit plane ticket. You can take a bus, like do shit. So I think you're not gonna find what you like. It's like food. I'm always fascinated by oysters. The amount of people that think they hate oysters, even though they've never had one, I see so many people living life that way. You don't know your passion because you haven't done shit, Billy. The only thing that you can do wrong is not being yourself. I see a lot of people scared to actually be themselves because they're scared who's watching. And they, like, I hate looking at all your LinkedIn accounts. You've got like a suit and tie, looking all professional. Like you think something bad's gonna happen if you're normal. I look like a mess up here. I'm wearing a Tierra Whack sweatshirt. Like the results always win. And I think a lot of people hold back their natural self. The market doesn't care in the end. Somebody may judge you, but the market doesn't care. You guys know Grey Goose? The guy who invented that as an entrepreneur invented it at 78. Sidney Frank, 78 years old. You know? Life is like sports. Like, one of the great moments of my life with AJ is the Monday Night Miracle at the Meadowlands with the Jets Dolphins. That shit was 30-7 in the fourth quarter. And they won. They came all the way back. My cousin left, went home to Queens, went to sleep. I called him when they tied it at 30 and said, can you believe this shit? He's already sleeping. He left that game and was already sleeping in Queens. I was like, what are you talking about? Hung up. And then the Dolphins scored and made it 37-30. And we blamed Bobby for waking up. But like, that's life. Like, you could do everything wrong. Have every dream you've ever had get f***ed up. Blame it on other people. The girl f***ed it up. That injury f***ed it up. Coach f***ed it up. Blame everybody. Have everything go wrong. Be 57 years old and still have 40 years to make it right. It's crazy, honestly. Like if there was some crazy new drug that I could like inject in you that gave you perspective of time, you guys too, that's the drug I would give you. Straight up. It makes you optimistic. People are sitting here dwelling already. Dwelling already. I shouldn't have come to Rutgers. I knew it. Of course there's people thinking that. Like that's just real life. Dwelling already, haven't even started. Man, that's what I want to change. When you're 10 years old, confidence is a very funny thing. You're still forming as a human, but the reality is if you're twitching and you're over responding to how many subscribers you have or what your friends in school are saying, you're not going to be able to be successful. And so you're lucky, Giovanni, to be able to start this process now, not when you're 45 years old. The quicker you get comfortable with judgment of others, the more likely you'll be successful long term. The way to get your confidence up is to start enjoying the pushback, is to start enjoying people say that you can't, is to start enjoying the judgment of others who don't understand. If you're not comfortable in your own framework, you'll never succeed. We're really into a new era of opportunity. You know, to me, the white space that technology continues to create and always will is really a thing that most businesses and people struggle with, because the reality is that most people think about things based on what has already happened instead of being able to understand what's about to happen, which is ironic because what's about to happen is already happened in history many times over. It's just you have to understand the pattern recognition and deploy it against the current state. And so for me, if you understood that jargon, for me, what is really interesting is that no matter who you are in this room today, the one thing I know we can talk about is attention of the person you're trying to reach. My entire career, I've come to realize, has been pretty simple. I've been chasing the attention of who I'm trying to reach, and that has worked for me since I was 6 years old. You know, probably my favorite entrepreneurial story for me, about me to myself, like in my own head, is when I started my lemonade stand business, I manipulated my friends to work the lemonade stands themselves. I kind of scoured the streets of Edison, New Jersey. And if you think about how sick or interesting, what I'm about to say is, it was interesting to me. It was fun for me to stand on the grassy knoll or on the corner and spend hours watching cars drive by to try to figure out which tree or which pole was the best one for me to put my lemonade sign on to sell more lemonade. That was intriguing to me. That was exciting for me. And 37 years later, I stand here in front of you in the same place, which is, where is the attention of who I'm trying to reach? I've now lived, two hardcore careers that really map this room. The first 15 years of my career was hardcore consumer, right? Brick and mortar store, internet business at scale. I built Wine Library on the back of email marketing. How many people here have done or do email marketing in their careers? Just raise your hands. Just hi, please. This is just gonna be fun for me to say. Like, in 1996, I had a 300,000 person email newsletter that had 93% open rates. And I built my dad's business from a $3 to a $60 million business in a 7-year period with no cash infusion, no VC, not even a credit line. And it was because I made every penny work like a dollar. And in 1996, that was actually having a website when everybody else was sending catalogs in the mail. That was having an email newsletter, which, for the kids in the room, like, you have to understand, like, people thought the whole internet was a fad, let alone email marketing, right? And then later, the one that really scaled me, which was the day Google AdWords started, I bought ads at 5 cents a click and owned every wine term in the world. And it's really interesting, at some point I'm gonna mention this. I would argue that one of the things that drives me tremendously is the great miss of my career during the great success of my career. I was so right about Google AdWords, but I'd never been through a pattern of buying very underpriced attention at scale that I didn't spend enough money on Google AdWords. Like, when some of you, and I know some of you that I know well, like, when you hear 3 to 60, I'm very proud of that, but genuinely, I know I left 100 million in revenue on the table because I did too much direct mail, radio, television, outdoor, a mix of media. When it's funny to say this in Vegas, I don't play poker, but there's something that's very easy to understand. When you have the best hand and you know it, you go all in. I knew I had the best hand with AdWords. I just didn't, like, let me rephrase, in hindsight, I had the best hand. I knew it was great, I just didn't know how great it was. And so you can imagine, when consumer, mobile, social, internet came along, the pattern recognition that I learned about email, which then became about Google AdWords, then I started legitimately one of the first 10 long-form YouTube shows in the first months of YouTube, which was a 20-minute show of me tasting wine. Best gig I ever had in my career. I sat in front of a camera for 25 minutes, drank 4 bottles of wine, and it completely changed the course of my career. I'm not sure anybody is taking enough risk from 20 to 30. Yeah. It is the most interesting thing that I've been thinking about, which is, it is never more practical to be disproportionately risky than from 22 to 30, yet everybody goes the other way because now they're the real world and it's time to prove something to their parents, to themselves, to everybody else, and everybody goes conservative. It is a huge mistake. We need to flip it upside down. Everybody should go ham from 22 to 30 and do a ton of ridiculous shit and figure themselves out. But on your own dime, not your parents.
There's the parents clapping.
So how I think about it is, you should go and be rogue and get to know yourself and taste shit from 22 to 30, but you have to live by the ramifications of doing that. And the cost of entry of that is living with 4 people in a studio apartment, eating dog shit food, and not having fancy shit. When you go and do that, but you're being subsidized by your parents, then you're living in a fake environment and you're super And I think the thing that I'm conscious of is off the screen, I'm real happy too, right? Like, you know, I think one thing that's really been interesting is as awareness around an individual grows, a level of responsibility comes along with it. I'm definitely at a point right now where I'm really being thoughtful of like, look, there's a lot of eyes on me, and a lot of people who are not happy are putting their eyes on me, and I'm helping them through that. And I need to be hyper sensitive in my own self of articulating things that I'm unhappy about. Mm-hmm. But what's been really interesting is I've been really on this kick for 6 or 9 months. I'm struggling to be unhappy because I've come to realize it's unbelievable how simple my life is. If I genuinely wake up in the morning and 8 to 10 people are actually still alive, I'm just struggling to be upset about stuff. I don't know what else to say. I struggle with, my perspective on life is very simple, which is it's such a blessing. It's so rare, you know? Last time we were here, I made a video with you guys, and in there, I talked about the 400 trillion to 1, and in that micro piece of content, which I've chopped up and used, it's one of my most successful piece of content ever. Happened in this building a couple years ago, and I've always internalized it. I finally articulated it a couple years ago, and I continue to internalize it, which is, I am happy because I'd like to understand, I'd like somebody to sell me on what to be upset about. I will never fail because there is no failure. The at-bat is the macro win. If I lost all my money because I did 37 ridiculously bad decisions and over-leveraged myself, the ability to go back to zero and try to like buy shit at the dollar store and flip it on eBay and build it back up weirdly excites me more than where I am right now. I swear on my children's health.
No kidding.
The thought of going to zero, having all of you judge me as, see, he wasn't as good as you thought, and then rising back like a phoenix and sticking it in your face excites the shit out of me. I believe that right there is the definition of entrepreneurship. It's when you love your game more than what the game gives you. That's why I like losing. The game told me I lost. Respect to the game. Evan, thank you so much for having a couple seconds and being able to tell the Believe Nation a little bit about Empathy Wines. It means a lot to me that you would take this valuable real estate and time on your channel to give me some love. It means a lot. It's just good karma points, and so you're awesome. Thank you. Believe Nation, if you're into wine at all, go to empathywines.com. My whole career's work was poured into producing a wine that rivaled $40 to $60 wine for 20 bucks a bottle. I'm just super excited about this subscription-based wine business. You can order 3, 6, or 12 bottles in subscription form, rosé, white, red. If you search on Instagram or Twitter, you will be blown away. People are literally like, I don't even like Gary Vee, but the wine's good. Super proud of the effort. Thanks, Evan, for the time. Wishing you guys all happy and healthy.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag Believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome. For 10 more amazing rules from Alex Hormozi, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
I think that when I started out in business, I heard all these things in the personal development space, like, oh, you should read these affirmations every morning, blah, 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 blah. I never did that. And it was because it felt stupid to me. Now,